and a slightly different episode today.
Yes. Welcome to A Jar of Salsa for the Casual Academic. Today we do not have a jar of salsa.
No, we do not.
We have a plastic container of bruchetta.
Of a homemade bruschetta from ShopRite. We have to give a special shout out to our pal Dave because he made the ShopRite run to bring us pita chips and bruschetta because our special guest today does not like salsa. So this is our compromise.
I think it's an excellent compromise. Thank you, Dave. I really appreciate that.
Yes. Big shout out to Dave.
So, Catherine and Christina here, back at you again for our next episode. We are welcoming our friend, our colleague, our good old pal, Malclm Evans.
Oh.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Malcolm.
Well, it's all started in...
Other than you don't like salsa.
Other than I don't like salsa. So, I have to qualify the salsa.
Yeah, let's start there.
So, like, I eat the mild salsa at Chipotle. But that salsa is more like a bruschetta. It is tomato, onion, and that green thing, cilantro. I couldn't think of it. So I get that, and I eat that, and I love it, and I enjoy it. But even at Chipotle, when you move up to the spicier salsa, it becomes more of a tomato saucy type thing, and that's where I can't. No, the consistency is just not.
So you don't eat marinade then?
No.
So, okay, it's a consistency
All right,
thing.
so that's fair.
Yeah.
But...
Took me a second to figure out what you were talking about.
But we had this marinara.
Yeah, I got it. I got it. I was like, oh, wait, yeah.
If you didn't, you couldn't see his face, but he just it was like a deer in headlights for a split second when I said marinade. My Italian.
Yeah.
That's okay. Bruschetta's Italian, I think.
Yeah.
I think it is, right?
I'm pretty sure.
But so Malcolm and I have had this conversation before where I've said, why don't you just always buy chunky salsas that have the consistency of bruschetta, and then you would never have this problem?
I would just get bruschetta.
Is it like the taste? Because I know there's a taste difference.
I do love... Okay, so I also like pico de gallo, so that's a lot like
that's
bruschetta.
Salsa.
Yeah.
But I don't consider that a salsa, because that's like the whole... it depends, I guess, where you get it from.
Maybe we should
We
have
have to do a salsa taxonomy.
like a whole episode on it.
Yeah, you need to. Because I like pico on my tacos, but not a saucy pico. A bruschetta like pico. I'm saying all types of words right now, so it's
It's okay.
fine.
It's nighttime.
Yeah.
Well, the fact that you're saying lots of words kind of brings us to why you're here.
Yeah, go ahead. You tell him. Do you know why you're here today?
Well, let me tell you who I am. I don't really know why I'm here, but this is who I am.
All right, so you told us about you told us about who you are in regards to your hatred for salsa.
Yes.
And now let's tell them you're here because we're going to talk about language and communication.
Absolutely.
So Malcolm will tell us a little bit about who he is and his background in communication. So why don't you start there, and then we'll eat the bruschetta.
Okay.
That sounds
So,
good.
continuing from before it started, I am a graduate 2 times of Kane University
Whoop whoop.
with 2 degrees in communication, bachelor's and master's, and I currently am teaching communication to the bright minds who will run this country in the future.
Double degree in communications means he's a professional bullshitter.
No, I'm not a spin artist.
From one communications major to another.
I just am fascinated by language and the way we use it to create meaning. So that's communication.
Fair enough.
All right.
But tell us about your background and how you chose communication from your past possibilities. Like, you've had quite a whirlwind of, careers.
Yes. So, all right. Let's start from the beginning and just follow the yellow brick road. I was dead set on being an English teacher, high school English teacher. So I came in and I majored in English, and then I took this one communication class, and it changed my life. So I enjoy writing, but for me, the ability to take that language, that communication off of the page and share it with my voice was just fascinating to me. So I changed my major the next day and stuck with communication and minored in English. But I also worked in HR. So I'm just this hodgepodge of things in my life.
But wait, even before...
You're also...
Go ahead, Catherine.
was going to say, you're also very musical.
That's where I was going too.
The
So
music thing.
before English,
I was never majoring in music, but my family thought I was. So the expectation when I got to college was that I was going to actually go to Boston to Berklee College of Music and study music and get a degree in that. But that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to teach children to write, and that is not what I am doing. So I'm just disappointed all the way around. But yeah, so my passion though is music, not trying to do it professionally, but I enjoy it. So
you're like the opposite of every other family, where the kids are like, I want to major in music, and the parents are like, you're going to be a doctor or a teacher. And
yes.
Your family was like, you're going to major in music, and you're like, I want to be a teacher.
Yeah, absolutely. My father is still trying to get music lessons for me. He plays the bass, and he's just like, you have to sit down with me and teach me this stuff. Like, that's not what I do.
Well, you're a choir director.
Yeah.
I am that, but I am not a bass player or a real musician. So
he is the Kane University Gospel Choir Director.
Yes.
Yes. So you're very affiliated with Kane.
Yes.
And he also adjuncts at Kane. Let me help you out, buddy.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's list these things. I'm Mr. Kane. I graduated from here twice. I teach here. I'm the musical director of the choir here. I will be in Kane Magazine. They're doing a feature article on me.
Are you going to be on the cover?
I will not be on the cover, I'm sure. But I will be somewhere in there. So I don't know what page. You just have to look through. So don't throw it out when you see it.
I will not. And if you're ever at Kane, viewers, all of our tens of viewers, maybe, I think tens.
Listeners.
But if you multiply that, there's 20 eyes.
So 20 eyes. All of our eyes.
Unless you have pirates that listen to your show.
Oh
you
my
have to
God.
subtract. It's okay.
This is getting confusing. I don't remember what I was going to say. Oh, all of our eyes that are viewers.
That are listening.
That are listening
watching
with their ears. If you're ever on Kane's campus, if you ever look at any television ever, Malcolm's usually on it directing the choir. So
yeah.
He's very affiliated with Kane. We're very affiliated with him. And that's why he's here.
And we were all in the writing center together.
We were all in the writing center.
I was actually GAs with both of you. I'm a bridge.
Yes.
Yeah, you were.
Bridging the gap.
Yes, I bridged the gap.
Malcolm and I were the mom and dad of the writing center on Saturdays.
Shout out to our daughter, Holly.
Yes. Holly.
Get in the house before the streetlights come on.
Yes, you took the words right out of my mouth. All right, bruschetta. Let's.
Bruschetta. Okay, so.
Catherine, take it away.
Yeah, we don't have the ingredients list for this, so we're gonna eyeball it. I know I always like to talk about the ingredients. Looks like we definitely have some tomato. There's nice big chunks of tomato. It looks like some green peppers, maybe?
Yeah.
Green peppers, onions, cilantro, maybe some basil or oregano, lots of little green flakes. Maybe,
I think it's basil.
Yeah, I feel like basil, because I think oregano's flakes are bigger,
We'll
right?
smell it. Does it smell like basil?
Yes, a little.
All right, so we'll go with basil.
And there's some kind of an oil, maybe olive oil or something that it's marinating in. Did I say onions? There's onions in there.
There's definitely onions in there.
And yeah, this, like we said, our good friend Dave got this from ShopRite.
Yes.
So.
But wait, there's more.
Wait, oh yeah, we also have, I forgot, what we're going to be dipping into the not salsa. Dipping into the bruschetta, because it is not salsa, we do not have tortilla chips this time. We have New York style sea salt pita chips, baked from real pita bread. That's what it says on the front, and it says twice baked, never fried. The chip to dip, big crunch, less crumble. Let's see.
That's always important. I hate when there's a lot of crumble.
It didn't crumble at all. I ate one when you all weren't looking.
Oh, good. Before the show. Thank you.
So the ingredients we have here are wheat flour, sunflower oil, whole wheat flour, sea salt, yeast, salt, rosemary extract, ascorbic acid as an antioxidant. So, yeah.
We're eating a science project. It's okay.
It's a delicious science project with all kinds of flour and salt.
If anyone would know, Malcolm would know how delicious a science project it is because he ate one before the show.
It's really good.
So, Malcolm, you're our guest. Dig in.
Here, you get first chip.
Thank you. I'll do that.
He literally took one.
Oh, I thought it was just like a ceremonial thing, like where I just take one and.
Oh
then...
no! All right, so you really need to savor the flavor here.
Yeah.
No pressure.
You're gonna need to communicate what you're tasting.
Yeah. Take a second.
While your mouth is full. No, just kidding. Don't choke.
I'm using his nonverbal communication and it's telling me that he's chewing.
He also has a face.
Thumbs up. It's good.
It's good. Just tell us more than that.
Yeah, we need more than that.
So I'm a foodie, so let's.
All right, well, let's go.
Sell it to us.
I actually did sell food to people for 3 years at a Costco.
All right, let's do it.
The
then.
more you know.
Bust out the Costco moves.
Oh man, it's been so long. But however, showtime.
He just pulled out his jazz hand.
I did a Christina. I don't know. Bam! This is all you need to know. So there's definitely a lot of garlic in it.
Ah, garlic. I didn't even say that.
Very garlicky. The tomatoes are good. They're some of those like zesty tomatoes. They have a little bit of a tartness to them, sourness. It's good though, but a little sweetness. The cilantro is definitely at the forefront of it.
So it's not basil, it's cilantro.
I can taste the cilantro.
So there's no basil in there.
Could also be basil though. Could be both.
Okay.
Not sure
we'll never know.
But I'm going with that.
Okay.
But it's very refreshing.
Good.
Tomatoes had a little bit of a snap to them.
Ooh, snap.
Oh, that was a good one.
Yeah.
Catherine?
All right, let's do
You're
this.
up.
And we get to wait while I clumsily chew this stuff. Ooh. Here we go. I'm taking a bite.
I love the sound effect.
Ooh. And I'm going to put some on my plate because our pita chips have white flour in them, and I gave up white flour for Lent. So I will be spooning the bruschetta instead of chipping it. What's up, Catherine? Talk to me.
Okay, so I definitely agree with the cilantro being at the forefront. That's the first thing you taste. I also taste the garlic. I taste the onion. It all works together very well with the saltiness of the chips. Because the bruschetta itself I don't feel is salty. I feel it's more of a tangy, cilantro-y kind of flavor. And the salty chips balance it, as well as just the pita flavor. I think they work very well together.
I agree. I took a spoonful while you were explaining. Yeah, I definitely have like this very fresh taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
And I thought it was going to be like, when you said garlic is the first ingredient, I was kind of bummed because I'm like the only Italian that doesn't love garlic.
Really?
Yeah, I'm a unicorn. But like I like garlic, but I don't like it as like the first thing. And I definitely have like this freshness in my mouth, and I think it's from cilantro maybe.
So
Very good.
I don't know who I had this conversation with earlier or yesterday. The days all melt together. So someone said that there are certain people who cilantro tastes like soap to them. It's a biological thing. Oh, it was in the writing center.
Oh,
that's interesting.
And Chris said it. Yeah. But there's whatever is in cilantro, some chemical thing is also what they use for soap. And some people can taste that.
I do not taste soap. I love the taste of cilantro.
I like the taste of cilantro, but now I will always think of that when I eat it. So, like, it might...
Thank you for ruining cilantro.
I'm sorry. Well, it's not a Tide Pod, so it's good. Don't eat Tide Pods, because that's real soap.
Oh, yeah, don't. We just want to make sure that everybody's safe for all of our tens of viewers on this show.
19 to 20 eyes.
Yes, 19 to 20 eyes. Our 18 fans and one pirate.
Who's also a fan.
Yeah,
Just because you're a pirate doesn't mean you can't be a fan.
This is true.
Arr.
A jar of salsa.
Ah. How does a pirate open the door?
Oh, Catherine, I missed your puns. I'm sorry. Oh, how does a pirate? He opens it.
He leaves it ajar. Okay.
You're down to 9 viewers now.
Only 9 eyes. Okay, so We went over the salsa. We're giving bruschetta. We're giving it 2 thumbs. Sounds like.
Oh
it?
yeah, it's good.
All right, awesome. Okay, so you went over a little bit about yourself. So now, if you wouldn't mind discussing with us a little bit about communication and language, and well, why don't, because Malclm wanted to wing this episode, so let's make that your prompt since we're writing people. So your prompt for this episode is communication and language. And then whatever direction you want to take us in, we'll just come up with some questions.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
May I begin by asking you a question? It's actually more of an observation. You said something about the kind of magical quality of taking something that's written on paper and expressing it with your voice.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that is daunting. I write much better than I speak. I always kind of stumble over my words and lose my thought when I'm speaking. Writing is a completely different story. So I guess my question here is, what do you think that difference is when you're writing versus when you're speaking, and why do you think it's easier for some people or more difficult for others to kind of make that jump from written page to spoken word?
Okay. All right, let's unpack that. So for me, the way I expressed it when I decided to make the change was going from like 2 or 3D, let's call writing 3D, to 4D.
Okay.
Which was what public speaking was to me. So if you've ever been to a 4D theater, like there's water coming at you, like there's fire, like there's an extra added piece to the experience. Mm-hmm. So for me, that's how I explained it to people. And I show my students a video from the World Championships of Public Speaking because that's a thing, and they're surprised. But there's a gentleman who suffered with, not suffered, but has dyslexia. I have to be careful what language I use. Not suffering, but he has dyslexia. And he said for him to write was always a challenge, but he loved to tell stories. And public speaking gave him the opportunity to do that. So I guess that's like the opposite of your situation as to where writing is a more comfortable space for you than speaking out loud. And it sounds like it's like an anxiety thing for you.
Yeah.
And when we approach that with students, we tell them anxiety is absolutely natural. People have different levels of anxiety, and their level of comfort with speaking in front of other people is different, but it all is based on something very natural within us. Because we are tribal, like we need to be with others, we need to connect with others. A fear of exclusion, maybe they won't like me, they won't accept me, they will shun me, is the basis of why we are afraid to speak in public in front of other people.
Okay.
Like that's a thing. So people are afraid of public speaking more so than death.
Yeah.
And would rather be in a casket than to give the eulogy at a funeral.
I believe that. I mean, that's not for me, but like I believe that's a thing.
See, I don't mind speaking publicly as long as I have my script. If it's all written out beforehand, it's when I have to wing it that I get nervous.
Yeah.
I always find, and like when I briefly taught public speaking, because Malclm also teaches public speaking. I don't remember if we said this. Did you say that? I don't remember. Malclm teaches public speaking.
I do.
As an adjunct professor at 3 schools? 2 schools? 2 schools. Kane being one of them. And I used to always tell my students, and we had this conversation like last week, but like a lot of times I'll find myself saying to my students, like, anxiety is a thing that happens and sometimes you can't control it. But in the moment of things, if you take a second and you take a deep breath and you know your shit, that's where it's different. Like if you know your shit like the back of your hand, like what you have to say, you can take a deep breath and that can be like reassuring to you. But like to get up there and like not know what you're doing and feel unprepared. Like I feel like there's nothing worse than feeling frightened and unprepared. So you're like prepared to be frightened, more or less. And I feel like when I know what I'm talking about, even if I start to steer away, I'll either have like index cards or a PowerPoint with me or something small with me to like get me back on track. So like eventually it gets done because you're confident in what you're saying.
Yeah. And another part of that is like the fight or flight reaction. How do you manage your anxiety? Because it's going to be there. You either will use it as energy or it will be debilitating for you. And that's another thing that students need to consider. And there's like layers of things that I talk about with my students in terms of like, what are you visualizing before you present? So if you're focused on, and this is self-fulfilling prophecy. Like that's a sociological term.
Okay.
Excuse me. If you're like, I'm going to mess up, I'm going to mess up, I'm going to mess up, and that's all you're telling yourself internally, when you get up there, that is what you're going to do.
Right. Well, we used to talk about that in sports, like, because I used to coach, but and I played volleyball for a very long time, and that's why I always used to tell my my not students but players, I guess. I would make them do push-ups if they said the words I can't or I cannot do this. And that would go down to like the communication between body language and then like their verbal communication. So I would see them start to give up before they would even realize it. And then they would say, I can't do this. And like once you have that thought in your head, I completely agree with you. Like you can't. Like I have, when we would practice overhand serving, I had kids that would say, you know, I just want to get the ball over the net. So I would say to them, how about instead of praying that you get the ball over the net, that you look for a specific place that you want to put it. So like you're thinking like about the glass half full instead of half empty. Is that, I feel like that's kind of like.
I think it comes down to something very similar to, or exactly, the idea of self-efficacy. If you believe you can do it, it's easier to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I said sociology, I meant psychology. Let's call it psychosocial.
Okay. Fair enough. But so right now, your communication and language kind of thing you're working with is a very exciting project that you've been encompassing on and you're doing in your class. The drum roll, please. The escape the room. Oh
yeah.
Yeah. Did you know where I was going with this? I was trying to buy you.
It was
some
going
time.
one or two directions. I was prepared for either.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, no, I figured that we would talk about the escape the room because I feel like that's a little more unique. And, like, I don't know if we'd have many people who have your background in it.
Yeah.
So walk us through that.
Malclm used to make us escape the room games.
Yeah, we did Escape the Cube in the Writing Center, but that was before I ever actually visited an escape room and knew what they really were about. But I was obsessed then. So I had the opportunity to teach group communication. And I wanted to teach this class specifically because I felt like I could squeeze an escape room into it. Like it just made sense to me. If we're teaching them problem solving and decision making, the roles that they take when they're in a group and how they function with their interdependent goals, you do all of that in an escape room. So yesterday, actually.
Oh, it was yesterday.
Yesterday, I took my class to Escapology in Garwood, New Jersey. Staff, Mike, everybody was amazing. All of my students are split into groups of 4, and those groups went into different rooms, different escape rooms, and each group was given 60 minutes to get out, to solve the puzzles and get out. And all the rooms ran at the same time. So I had a student missing, so I went in with one of the student groups to participate. And it was just interesting to see like how they relate to each other. Like how do we use language? So the language, each room is themed, and that's an important part of this. So we went in a room called Under Pressure, for example. So it's like a Navy room.
Under pressure.
Right? Yeah.
Sorry.
I had to.
And then there's a Wild West one, and there's one that's in a lab, like a science lab. But it's creating this the fantasy, right, or theme that all the students have to follow. You know, like they have to. I'm sorry. Christina's trying to eat this candy hamburger.
Stuck on my teeth.
She's just having so much trouble.
She's been here. She was trying to quietly open
Unwrap
it, and then she dropped it, and she was trying to be quiet about it. But it's
funny.
Just the effort, the
it got
struggle.
stuck on my teeth, and then I was trying to cover my mouth, and I was like, "Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry."
It's okay.
Go ahead.
So once you get in the room, you become immersed in this world, right? Because it's completely themed. Think of Disney World or Universal Studios, where everything is like dedicated to this theme and creating this perception. And the group goes in, and it almost helps them create a group identity because their perception of the whole thing, they're relating in the same way to their environment. And that's actually how I explain language to them also, that language gives meaning to events, right? That's how we interact with our surroundings and with each other through language and meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I think I tried to make a transition, but it was really rough. So let's just keep going.
No, that's okay. So, what was the overall consensus? How did they enjoy it? Like, did you think that they accomplished what you wanted them to in regard to communication and language?
I will see.
Tell them this. Tell them about the second
part of the assignment. This is really the assignment.
I got so excited for you.
Part one was the experience. So they got to go into the escape room. Everybody, I just gave them like a heads up, like pay attention to these things. How do you make decisions? Who becomes a leader? What role do you take? Are you performing what we call a maintenance function, where you're trying to help the morale of the group? You're more concerned with making sure everybody's getting along, or are you a person that's like, we need to get this done and this done and this done, and you focus on the task? They're going to take all of that and their experience, and they're doing a 15-minute vlog where they answer a series of questions about their experience and then relate it to a study, basically like the only study I could find, hard study I could find, on escape rooms by a researcher. His last name is Nicholson.
Jack.
I was just
not
Jack.
I can't remember his first
Sorry.
name right this second, but Nicholson, and he did this article on escape rooms, just breaking down how they operate. How does your team size impact it? If there's more people, how does that impact your decision making? And he brings up another important thing is these escape rooms are everywhere. So in touristy places, not everybody speaks the same language. So you could be paired with strangers in an escape room, but if we don't speak the same language, like how are we going to work together to get out of here? Because we're all working towards the same goal.
So then wait a minute. It's not, but when you did it, you got to pick everybody in the group.
We had a more controlled environment.
But you could be you could just sign up by yourself and be like, I want to do this thing. I've never done one. So other than the one that we made for that conference, Malclm and I made like an escape what would we call it?
The booth?
An escape the booth. We did a conference for our writing center, and it was about team building. So we decided to use this was Malcolm's obsession and how it was building. So we made an escape and Rashonda, who is here with us, who was on our last episode, we did an escape the booth, and just kind of had, I think so, because it was like they had us all in different booths for people to present their work. So we had clues and riddles hid around the booth, and people had to like find them and solve them, and then once they figured everything out, they could leave at any point, but they could leave the booth and like win.
They weren't locked in the booth.
No, they weren't locked in.
It was a table.
We had a budget. We couldn't lock them in. So this was transitioning into something that I wanted to ask you, and I don't remember what it was.
It was about the language thing. The strangers.
Oh, right. So so that was my only experience with these kinds of things. But so you can just sign up solo and be like, this is the thing I want to do. I hope more people come. And
so there's like 10 spaces available in a room, and they'll book the room until it's full unless you have a certain amount of people in your group, and they'll reserve it for you. So the second escape room I did, I was with 3 other people, so there were 4 of us, but we were put into a room with 6 other people. They were a family, parents and their 3 children, or however many people it needed to be to make 6. So like we didn't know those people, and I've been in that situation in every escape room I've been in since my first, where I was paired with strangers, and I didn't go by myself. I went with people, but our group was paired with another group.
Okay.
So you don't know these people at all, but you have to like get familiar really quickly and work together.
Okay.
But the study was talking about how, like, let's say you're doing one in New York City. Not everybody that visits New York City is going to be a native English speaker or speak English at all.
Right.
But they still want to participate. So some of those rooms won't allow you to mix groups with other people because of that language barrier.
So would it be you probably can't answer this, but like, I don't know how to phrase it. I feel like I'm going to sound like a jerk. Is there a way, how do you communicate in these situations? Or are you not allowed to say that and you kind of have to figure it out in the room?
You kind of just have to figure it out.
I knew that was going to be
so you don't even meet each other before the room. Like, if you have an appointment time in an escape room. So let's say your appointment is at 2 o'clock. Those people might be in the waiting room with you, but you don't know that they're going to the same room.
That's creepy, man.
Until it's just like, okay, everybody for under pressure, come with us. And it's just like, hey, we're going to be in the room with you. And you just have to kind of go with it.
So I have two questions here. One is, it sounds like a lot of the things you're talking about are more sociological concepts than just straight up communication theory. So my first question is, how do the two relate? How often is there an overlap between, sociological studies and communication theory studies? And then the other question I have is, it sounds like everybody who goes to these escape rooms, they are putting themselves in this context where they know they are going to have to interact with strangers, or, they're going to have this common goal. Mm-hmm. And how do you think that influences the ways that they communicate? Like, would it be different if you just grabbed random people off the street and were like, hey, guess what? You're doing an escape room. Come with me. Or like you said, would you like to do an escape room? If so, come to here, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to go backwards.
Yeah, sorry. That was a lot. That was
no, it's good. I got it. Do I have it? So with the escape room, yes, I feel like it would be different if you took strangers off the street because they're not there. So that common goal, that interdependent goal, is what makes a group. So when I'm teaching group communication, like one of the first things you look for to determine whether or not this is a group or not is the number of people and whatever it is. If it's 3 to 6 people, do they have an interdependent goal? That defines whether or not it's a group. Are we working towards the same thing? And we depend on each other to have the same outcome. So if you make it, I make it, right? If we fight, we fight, but the outcome for you is going to be the outcome for me. And that's what one of the qualities of a group is. So in terms of sociology, psychology, and communication takes a lot from both of those. So it's almost like we're, not an offspring of them, but like researchers sat in a room and said, I want to look at this from a different perspective. Yeah. And that perspective became communication from both psychology and sociology. Okay. So in comm theory, you will learn psych and soc theories. All right. And that's kind of like approach them from a different lens.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Composition theory does that too, though.
Yes. Sorry, guys. There was something. I think there's pepper in here too. And it went right down my throat, and I exited stage left. I apologize. I was going to ask you a question, but I don't remember what it was. Catherine, do you have any?
I'll go again. Yeah. So when you're talking about communicating, you're talking about a social act. When you're communicating verbally, it is always a social act, right? I mean, if there's a person speaking and nobody to listen, does it make a sound? But there's also been a lot of talk in composition theory about every piece of writing being part of a larger conversation and writing being a social act. So now I lost my train of thought. Something about the the sociality of communicating, and I guess, which do you feel is, like you mentioned the 4D thing. Mm-hmm. I guess speak a little bit about the differences between writing as a social act and speaking as a social act.
Okay. So they're very similar. Okay. Like if you break down communication, what is the goal of communication? And this is what I do with my public speaking students, because I want them to not focus so much on, okay, people come into public speaking afraid, right? They're scared, they're nervous, they don't know what it's going to be. And then they come in with this preconception of what a public speaker should be or looks like. I need to sound like Barack Obama when I get up there. Okay. And I tell them, no, you need to focus on this one thing, and it breaks communication down, is that communication is about shared meaning. Right? Okay. So if you break it down, it's just about I send a message, and whoever is listening or receives my message has the same understanding as I do. Mm-hmm. And that is technically when you write to, so people understand, can hear you, your voice. So they're similar in that regard. And when I talk about 4D, so even in communication, it's not just speaking, that you could have a whole conversation without words, without sound at all, because we talk about nonverbal communication. And even when you're using your voice, the rate of your speech, if you're talking fast or slow, if you're talking high or low, all of that adds. That's the 4D part to me.
Okay.
To speech, because I could say, "Have a good day." Have a good day. It's different depending on the way I put it. But if I put that on a paper, it's up to the person to interpret it.
Okay.
So I feel like with communication, I was able to more directly impact other people's understanding. So let's take Shakespeare, for example. We look at Shakespeare's works now and we try to interpret what he meant based off of just his words. We have nothing else, no other context to put it in other than like a historical context. It's like sending a text message or an email to someone, and it's up to them to read and interpret what you meant by it. If I'm communicating with you, you have the video, the visual, you can hear me, the audio, and you have all the little nuances that I'm adding to it to help you understand what I'm saying.
One more thing building off of that, the internet and online communication. I'm doing some work with that, and I'm wondering what your take is. Do you feel like all of the things that the internet allows, vlogging, blogging, podcasts, all of that, how do you feel like that has impacted communication in our society, at least?
Well, the volume of communication has increased. I question or worry about, I guess, for lack of a better word, about the quality of our communication. So is it the same as having a face-to-face conversation with someone to correspond online? And I feel like you could get something out of an online conversation, but I still am wondering about whether or not it's still the same quality.
I mean, in my writing classes, we're talking about now like texting and microblogging. And for those of you who don't know what microblogging is, Twitter is like a form of microblogging. It's like a social media. And one of the things that the books were telling them is that with these kinds of communications, you can only communicate one short, simple message at a time. Mm-hmm. But the more that you add to it, that's where all the confusion and the room for error and miscommunication lies.
Yeah. So we have to go back and forth more often. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But saying less each time.
Yeah.
And what does that do to the quality of our communication? We sound like
cavemen, I guess, more or less. I had a question when I thought about it the second time I was coughing in the bathroom. I am not contagious. I would just like all of our fans to know that. What?
Because you can get strep throat through the internet.
You can get strep. I'm going to cough on all of you right now. That was a very silly thought I put in my head. So when you think about communication and language, when was the first time it all clicked to you? When did you see communication and see language in communication and it clicked and you were like, this is it, I get it, I can get on board with this? Like the first time.
I want to say it was in the class that made me change my major, which is the class I'm teaching now.
Which is public speaking? Or group communication?
Public speaking, but our public speaking course here, the introductory one, is called Speech as Critical Citizenship, right?
Oh, okay.
So there's 2 elements to it, or 3 or 4. It's like a survey course of communication, so you're introducing them to the discipline, just very, just
a taste.
Yeah, put your toe in the water to see how it feels. And then you're also doing speeches. But then there's this other component to it that allows you to, because not everybody teaches that course the same way.
Yeah.
We have to have the same framework, but some nuances are different.
Of course.
It allows you to take a more socio-political approach to the class, because you're saying that communication is important to your ability to participate in our nation's democracy.
Okay.
So that's the angle, and that's the class that actually, where I first had my engagement with communication, and it was like, wait a minute, hey, you mean to tell me that, my language being different with my friends versus at work versus this place, that's like a thing, and we have theories about that, and we're going to talk about that, and we're going to robotuss on that, and that is...
I'm dying over here.
or I first became enamored with communication.
Yeah, that's kind of what I had a feeling it was that class, but I wasn't sure like what was the actual trigger.
Mm-hmm. It was that one. And we had to do a group speech on another country, and I learned a few German words that I don't remember anymore. Nein. Nein. Am I even saying that right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just no, right?
Yeah. No, it's definitely no.
Okay. I knew something else, but I don't remember what it was.
So then to piggyback off it, or not really piggyback, to kind of make that question come full circle, what's your favorite factor about communication and language to teach?
So one of the things I have fun doing, I have a lot of favorite things.
Am I going in a teacher's corner?
No, I don't think it's quite a teacher's corner.
Okay.
Am I going to teacher's corner?
No.
Just stop me if I do. I don't know.
No, that's okay.
It sounds like a punishment, but
No, it's not. No. It's actually really fun.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
When I teach language, like literally we talk about words like semiotic things, like symbols that mean and stand for other things. I will draw a house, well, what I believe is a house, on the board, and I will say, what is this? Now, because I'm not an artist, I sometimes get a factory, a one-room schoolhouse, but sometimes I get home and I get house. And then I go, let's talk about what's the difference between those words. Are they the same?
Oh, that's really cool.
And, like, what do you think of when you see this? And students will go, bills, you know. And then someone would say family. And then I'll say, okay, so what's the difference between house and home? And what do you think of when you think of home? And one student, and this really kind of framed the way I have this conversation all the time now, said, I think of a person. So that no matter where I am, if I'm with that person, I'm home. That has nothing to do with the physical location. And then we start to talk about language and how our language is shaped, how we interact with language is shaped by our experiences. So for someone who came up in a household where, I don't know, there's a lot of arguing, they're not going to say that.
Right.
That's not how they relate to it. And then, you know, how we engage language, and that even if I'm saying this one thing, you may not interpret it the same way. And to me, let's go back to the 3D, 4D thing. If I'm reading something and I encounter that word, I have no other context. I just have the words and my interpretation. When I'm speaking to someone, I can get feedback from that person and then change the way I'm explaining it to them. Like texts that are written on a paper are static. They don't change, right? In speech, I can change in conversation what I'm saying and go a different way.
Well, but you can, but once it's out, it's out. Like, you can't take it back. So, like, if you're communicating written words back and forth, you can change what you're saying, too. But
in terms of, like, I wanted to be a writer, my works would be my works, and I would have to try to explain them if someone had a question. But in conversation, I can do that, like, on the spot.
You can think on your feet.
Yeah.
And answer on your feet.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so to illustrate that, we actually played Taboo.
Oh.
So if you've never played Taboo out there, there's a card with a list of words. The top word is what you need to get your teammates to guess. So let's say the word is spider. Then there's a list of words you can't say, like web, Charlotte, or the common things. But you have to try to make that association with the person based off of something, right? You need to make that connection somehow using language. Because you can't use sound effects, you can't use nonverbals, you have to use words.
Yeah, you can't do the charades either.
Yeah, so like for example, I did this with the students, and the clue was Michael Phelps. And the first thing that popped into a student's head was drugs for Michael Phelps because of the marijuana thing.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, okay, that's a different thing. But if I've never engaged in the word Michael Phelps that way, I wouldn't make that connection.
Right. You think like Olympics or swimming.
Yeah. So the students play this game and they realize how hard it is from a language standpoint. Like one of the clues was banister. And nobody could figure that word out because apparently that's not a word that people use nowadays. But I use it. I guess.
Yeah, I use it too.
Yeah. So they wound up looking.
They'd probably say railing or something.
Railing.
Yeah.
Or that's it. Just the railing or the.
It's almost as if the word has been banned. Shoot me now.
But yeah, that's a way to play with words and language and see how their experiences shape that. I don't know how I got there, but I got there.
Okay. Interesting. Are you ready to move into
Do it.
Teacher's Corner? That's our ding dong.
Yeah, there's like a little ding dong. This is the part where
You can't see my face, but it was just really afraid. I'm like fear.
So this is the part where
You
we
get
talk-
punished. Oh, we talk. Or that.
Talk a little bit about pedagogy and
Yeah.
teaching
Punished.
experiences.
Okay.
So my first question here is, you mentioned that a lot of students you get in a public speaking course are really anxious. They have these preconceived notions about what they're going to do and what they should be. And how do you deal with that? With that, I guess it would be the affective part of that teaching experience, because it's one thing to know all the theories and be like, okay, this is how you speak, this is how you get this across, this is how we make meaning.
Mhm.
How do you get students down from that anxious ledge? Because that sounds like a pretty considerable, excuse me, I can't talk, considerable stumbling block that has to be overcome before real learning can take place there.
Yes. All right. So I do it several ways. There's no like one technique that I that I use, but I let them know like we need to create a community, a safe space in here, and that's not something that I can do alone. That we all have to do for each other. You all have to give a speech. You all are going to be in the same position. You understand what it feels like. So let's support each other. And then we play games, like the whole taboo thing. And I just get them to come up to the space where they'll be speaking, but they're not speaking. They're just playing, right?
Okay.
So it's just like, let's just get comfortable with each other. The first day we do the name game. I do it in every class where we go around and you have to know everyone's name in the circle. And I always go last. And I have this little bit where they get to me and I go, okay, we're doing a good job. And they start to protest like, you have to go. You have to do it too. And I walk out the class and I say, you know, switch positions. Everybody just go somewhere else in the classroom and I'm going to come back and name you. And this is who you are. And I do that, but I engage them in a playful way. And that actually comes from me working in HR, where we have this like culture thing called FISH, where you play, make their day, and be there, be present with people, so that they start to feel comfortable.
Okay.
Right. So I'm not like this know-it-all, the sage on the stage that has all the answers. I'm not that. I'm more like the guide on the side. Like, I'm going to help you in your journey, and I tell them that too. So I say, think of where you are now, and don't compare yourself to someone else. Your job this semester is to get better. Wherever you are, get better than you were. Right? Don't try to be as good as someone else, which from like a pedagogical sense, like how does that affect grading, right? Because you have to grade everybody based on a rubric. And,
right.
But I tell them, don't you worry about those things right now. Just focus on your improvement. And then we kind of look at, I ask them to tell me what a good public speaker is. And then we talk about it. And we watch a video of someone who has a stutter, a speech impediment. And I say, well, because she has a speech impediment, can she be a good public speaker? And it gives them the opportunity to think about it. So all of those things that they internalize, the reasons why I'm not a good public speaker because I stumble over my words. Does that mean that you can't share meaning with other people? You can still be effective. And I just try to change the way they think about public speaking. Like, instead of it being about your ums and likes, it's about sharing meaning and you being able to like use your voice to tell other people what you feel inside. And that sometimes makes them.
Wow,
that's
very
really
powerful. Yeah. I'm inspired just hearing that.
I just want to like, does anybody have a podium? I just feel the need to profess.
Because they have to advocate for themselves. I'm telling you, in the workplace, you could be a genius, but if nobody knows it, it's just wasted.
Right? Yeah.
So
I say the same thing in writing too. I say if you don't, you have to back up your own. You have to back yourself up. You have to use your own sources because nobody else is going to do it for you.
Yeah.
I also really like this idea of using play to create a safe academic space. Because I don't know, I'm not an education major, but to me it seems like our society today doesn't like this idea of play. That it's all work, 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 go, 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 do this, do that. And it's very refreshing to see play being brought into the classroom for adults. Not, we're not talking about, young children where, of course there's going to be play, but for adults. And I think that's important. And I also just loved that, I'm not the sage on the stage, I'm the guide on the side. I'm going to take that and treasure it and use it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I stole it from someone else too.
Oh, okay.
One of my professors
You
said
should
it.
really cite these things.
Yeah, I should cite it. Dr. Fitch, thank you so much. But where did he get it from?
Well,
it was Dr. Lynch.
Oh, okay.
Yes, one of my inspirations. But I feel like that's why I love the Writing Center so much. Because when you walked in the Writing Center, it wasn't like a whole bunch of stiff people there to help you with your work. Like, we had fun, and people saw fun, and they came in most of the time a little more comfortable because it's like, I can relax here. This is a safe place. I feel good here. But then again, so I took instructional comm in grad school, and we talked about, does liking and these feelings and emotions impact their final grade? And the studies can't prove that there's a correlation between liking and the final grade. So if the students like the professor, does that mean they perform better on actual tests and things of that nature? But even though there's no proven correlation, I think it opens them up to the possibility of learning. Like, students will not miss my class because they go, I enjoy this class.
Yeah.
And being present is a big part of them learning.
I agree. So let's flip it to the other side real quick. Like for teachers who are teaching, well, teachers have to public speak all the time, not just like, this could be for any teacher teaching any subject. But more specifically, what are your suggestions and or recommendations for teachers who perhaps want to incorporate play in the classroom and that type of communication language in the classroom, but are unsure how?
So I basically tested the waters.
Okay.
Just to see, like, is this
trial
going
and
to work?
error.
It was like, a little bit of experimentation. And you can always just ask the students. I do that too. Like, is this something that you would be interested in? And they say yay or nay. And involving them also helps as well. So it's just not like I'm throwing things at them. It's just like, we enjoy this type of thing. So, like, I'm obsessed with The Office, and I like to show Office clips. And if the students respond, like, really well to it, like, oh my gosh, I love this, they start to mention clips to me, like, that I could use as examples. And it's just like, okay, like, this is what you're into. I'm flexible enough to now change and adapt to the students. So I can't make every group play the same. So I had one group, they were so playful that when a person got up to give their speech, they applauded that person when they went up and when they sat down. And I didn't ask them to do that. It just happened naturally.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, but then me being the dumb instructor, tried to get the other class to do it, another section, and it just didn't work. So I just didn't press it anymore. It wasn't authentic.
Yeah.
So.
Depends on the relation. I have to say I taught one public speaking class at Union County College, and that class, like, kind of came together into this, like, self-help group where they would work in groups, and, like, some of them would talk to me on break and say, oh, I texted so-and-so, and I was like, I didn't even know you guys were friends. And they would say, we weren't, but we took this class together. So, like, we became, like, they just became this group to, like work together and, like, really want to make each other better. Yeah. But it doesn't always happen.
No. So, and again, last semester I did a class hashtag on Twitter with my two sections here. So, like, when we had conversations or if a speech was happening, I told them, I'm not going to tell you to put your phone away. Just be responsible. Be a decent human being about it and silence it. And don't be on it all the time. But they would tweet out our conversations in class and like go back and forth with each other in a conversation using the hashtag. And one section was really, really good at it and were rewarded by the university, actually, with the pizza party. And that was the class that applauded. So they really created this, like, community.
Yeah.
I was like, let me nudge you in this direction, and they just went with it naturally. Yeah. And the other section, it didn't work the same way. They created their own type of community, but it wasn't the same. So I couldn't just try to treat them both. It's not like this one solution will work for all of your classes, so you conduct them the exact same way.
And I kind of feel like that language is communicated through the student and how they perform in class. So, like, the first day, that's not true, actually. Some classes, they've been, like, I was like, this is going to be awful. This is going to be an awful semester. And then, like, a third of the way through, it's totally different. Yeah. So I feel like their nonverbal language changes, and I start to see it in small groups. because I do a lot of like that kind of stuff. But I see it. And I saw it as a student, too. Like, I remember being in a classroom and just being like, this class is awful. Like, I can't wait to be done. And it was just because, like, there was no vibe. Like, did you guys ever feel that when you were students?
It's almost like this weird sense of chemistry with the whole group. Because I've had experiences where, I know, I just forgot what I was saying in the middle of saying it. I've had classes where it was like, wow, this is great. I feel like these people are my family, and, you know, it's wonderful. And then I've had classes where I don't speak the whole time because I just don't feel good about it.
And that's so surprising to me, Catherine, because you always have, like, valid points. I don't think we've ever had a class together, but, like, working together and, like, doing the show, you always have, like, valid points that you bring up. So I'm, like, mad for you that you're in a class where you feel like it's just quiet.
All of high school felt like that to me. I was the quiet kid that would get marked for being there when I was absent because it didn't make a difference. Like, it's only very recently that I've become comfortable being outspoken in certain situations.
Okay.
I just shared that earlier in the race class with you all, that it wasn't until I got to college that I started to participate in any type of dialogue in the classroom. Like, I had something to contribute, but I just kept it to myself. It was like,
I did a little bit in high school, but I was always afraid of sounding stupid.
Yep.
So
I'm still afraid of sounding stupid.
Yeah.
Yet here I am, being stupid for all to hear.
But I think I participated the most in my English classes. And I think it was because my English teachers pushed me the most. More than my math and science and history. I felt the most push in those classes. So I think I gave back what I thought I got out.
Interesting. So that kind of goes with the whole
communication and language.
And putting that out there for the students from the first day. Like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
This is how I want to interact with you.
And I felt the vibe just be, and like I had a really good physics teacher. Like, there were a couple of like if I didn't go for writing, I was going to be an engineer. And I had and that was just like another class where I was like, this is amazing, because I got that from the teacher. And like halfway through the semester, there was a huge shift in the class, and everybody like got along and like wanted to work together, and it was great. And then I realized that physics has a lot of math in it, and I'm not a physics major.
Yeah.
But I think another big part for me, something I always respond to in making, a classroom environment more welcoming, is I've always responded most to professors who do not take themselves too seriously.
Yeah.
When somebody does like a self-deprecating joke, is that the right word?
Yeah.
Like, where they just kind of like make fun of themselves. I remember at Raritan Valley Community College, one of the coolest professors I've ever had. I always remember her, Professor Vitta. She's probably Dr. Vitta at this point, because I know she was going toward her PhD. I don't know where you are, Professor Vitta, but you influenced me, just the way that you taught. She was always just calling out her own awkwardness and being silly, and it just, I don't really care much about sociology, but I will always remember that class because of her and her passion and her just way of being. It made it a good experience, even though the subject matter wasn't really what I was most interested in.
So I do similar things to that. So you all know I wear fake glasses.
Yeah.
So I wear these glasses. They have no prescription, but
Makes
they're
me
just
upset, but go ahead.
They're just, to make me look smart and cool and stuff like that. So the first day of class, after we've done the name game, I talked to them, and this actually happened naturally one time, so I just kept doing it. I have these like bits that I do in the class.
Because you're a dad. You are such a dad.
So I have like the glasses on my eyes, and they start to bother me after a while. And I take them off, and I kind of like just fling them to the side. And I go, I'm just going to take these off. They're just windows. They're not even real. And everybody just looks at me like, oh my gosh. Like I just took off like a wig and go, I'm really a woman or something like that. But they laugh at that. And it's just like, he doesn't take himself that seriously.
Yeah.
And and that makes them a little bit more comfortable in the class. And I'm also just awkward in real life, so
I think we all are.
Yeah, super awkward.
Mm-hmm.
I can't use a nice awkward silence
Yeah.
just to kind of accentuate that.
To enforce it.
Yeah.
You don't think we're awkward? Here's how awkward we can be.
And we're not going to delete this. Oh, God. Should we, I have a very special game if we're ready to move into the grand finale. Okay, so I'm going to moderate, if that's okay.
Oh, boy.
You're going to do most of the work because you're the guest.
Okay.
We're going to play 20 questions.
Oh, boy.
So I'll keep track of the questions. Catherine, think of something, anything, don't tell us, and then Malcolm will ask you 20 yes or no questions.
Like a concept, a thing, like
Let's make it an object.
an object,
so that it can be somewhat doable. And you have 20 yes or no they can only be yes or no questions, and I'll keep track on my hands
Okay.
and my toes to make sure that you only ask 20 questions. So, Catherine, whenever you're ready.
So I just want to get this. I've never played 20 questions before.
Oh, so
I've always heard it as like an idiom. Like, what are we doing? Playing 20 questions?
Oh, we
like,
are literally playing 20 questions.
So I'm just going to answer yes or no to the question.
You can only answer yes or no. If he asks a different type of question, don't respond. You have to reword it as a yes or no question.
Okay.
All right?
I should be good at this.
All right, good, because we don't want awkward silence on the
I said
show.
should.
Yeah, well, Mr.
Right.
Communications, let's see.
This is literally a class at Kane.
Do you have your object in
Yes,
mind?
I
Okay,
have my object in
keep
mind.
it in the forefront.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready, and I'll keep track.
Is it small enough to fit on this desk?
Yes.
Is it alive?
No.
Has it ever been alive?
No.
Thinking taxidermy.
Yeah, you know me too well. You know me way too well, but no.
Can I use it to eat?
Yes.
Oh, that's okay. So it can fit on that desk. Is it often metallic?
Yes.
Is it a fork?
No.
Is it a spoon?
No.
Is it a knife?
No.
What are you using to eat? Is it a bowl?
No.
Is it chopsticks?
No.
Halfway there.
They can be metallic, right?
Yeah.
Wait, don't answer that. That's not a question.
Oh.
No, I meant for Catherine.
Okay.
Okay, so you can use it to eat. It can be metallic. Okay, is its primary purpose to help you eat?
Yes.
Okay, so
her tone is
her tone
communicating
is telling
something
something
else.
to me. I'm trying to read into what you're saying there. That its primary function is possibly to eat.
Eat, scratch my feet, same difference, right?
So, is it sold at Walmart?
Yes.
That's everything.
Yeah, but at least it's not a specialty item. Is it sold at CVS?
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, so then we'll make that a wash.
What am I on?
You have 8 left. Well, I'm not counting that one because
Okay.
she didn't know the answer.
Is there one in the room right now?
That's not. Close your eyes. You can't watch her look.
No, there's not.
Okay.
Okay.
You're like following her eyes around.
You use it to eat? Is it a plate?
No.
6 questions left.
It's not a plate, it's not a bowl, it's not a fork, it's not a knife, it's not a spoon. Is it a straw?
No.
The final
So, like,
countdown.
you hesitated when I asked you if you could use it, if its primary function was to eat. So I'm assuming that we're playing with the definition language here of the word eat. Like, do you consider drinking, eating, that type of thing? This is just stream of consciousness right now. These are not questions.
Okay. Malcolm is communicating by using his inner monologue.
Yeah. Could I kill someone with it?
Yes.
You kill someone with like anything. I don't even know what it is, to be
Small enough
honest.
to fit on the table. Is it a pot?
No.
Can I put it in the microwave?
No.
It's metallic.
I know, but not always metallic. I want to know what it. I have no clue what this thing is. It's an object. It can be metallic, so it's not like a wrap. It's what the heck is metallic? Is it a cup?
No.
I have one more. LeBron James.
What? Why? Why this?
Help me, LeBron.
How?
Beata, I call upon your spirit.
This is a terrible example of communicating.
When communication goes wrong.
Now.
Does it have... Is it sharp?
No.
It is
A
nudging common.
A what?
What?
No.
I thought it was a spork, but then she said it wasn't sharp. What is it?
It's a toaster.
A toaster.
toaster. You can't put that in, and I see why you hesitated on can you use it to eat.
Yeah,
Yes, you
because it's like to
do.
make food, but it's not something like a fork or a spoon that actually helps you eat.
So Malcolm, your master's in communications has failed you.
It's felt.
You've been bested by a toaster.
Thank you so much for playing with
Oh,
us and coming
thank you.
on our
Yes,
show.
thank you.
Thank you
This
for
was
having me.
awesome.
Should we put a
Put a lid on
put
it.
a lid on it?
Close our little container here. Here
Thanks
we go.
so much, everybody. We'll see you in March. At the end of March, we will have our next guest on.
Yeah, and it's gonna be what, the Shakespearean
Yes,
insults?
we're gonna have a Shakespearean episode of Language. So, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Check. Oh, Malcolm, this is your time to promote yourself. Does the Kane Gospel Choir have any events coming up?
We will follow us on social media.
What is your social media?
Yep. Follow us on social media at KU_GC on Instagram and on Facebook, Kicking It with KGC. Kicking It, not kicking, no G.
Kickin'.
Kicking It with KGC on Snapchat and the Kane University Gospel Choir on Facebook.
Awesome.
All
Thank
right.
you. Yay.
Thank you.
We
Woo.
never clap. This is
We're
new.
clapping.
We're clapping. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
I would wave, but you can't see it.